Welcome to our Lunch and Learn series, brought to you by the UAlbany Innovation Center and Innovate 518, New York's Capital Region Innovation Hotspot Program. We work together to support technology-driven startups in New York's Capital Region. Through the Innovation Hotspot Program, qualifying companies can operate tax-free for up to 5 years when they meet state criteria and are affiliated with a New York incubator. As a regional network, Innovate 518 brings together partner incubators so founders can access the right space, coaching, and community for their company. The UAlbany Innovation Center is a technology-focused physical incubator. In addition to the New York State tax incentive programs, we offer educational programming, networking, business coaching with entrepreneurs and residents, and connections to UAlbany researchers and students with strengths in climate and environmental science, biotech, forensics and cybersecurity, advanced data analytics, and nanotech/semiconductors. Inside the eTech building, UAlbany's hub for research and entrepreneurship, members get affordable rates starting at $150 per month, a bright, clean work environment with new furniture, meeting spaces, utilities, and access to community and culture found in an R1 academic institution. Don't forget to ask us about the NVIDIA supercomputer access for member companies. Across the river at UAlbany's Health Sciences campus, there's over 500,000 square feet of lab, office, and common space, alongside major industry neighbors like Regeneron and Curia. It's a flexible environment for life science startups to grow with wet lab space. If you'd like to get more involved, email innovationcenter@albany.edu or scan the QR code to connect with us. We're glad you're here. Enjoy today's session.
We're excited to share a bit about the R&D Tax Credit. Quick show of hands, who's heard of the R&D Tax Credit? Anybody? Or you've heard of it? Anyone claiming it yet? All right, that's good, that's good. All right, you're probably going to know a lot of this, but maybe we hit you with a couple things that maybe can add some value. So I'm just going to start by kind of introducing myself and Zach. Kelly did a good job of that, but we'll touch on that, and then we'll dive into the R&D Tax Credit and really what it means for you guys as entrepreneurs and business leaders. So again, as Kelly mentioned, we actually have a portfolio of companies. Our largest company is Jahnel Group. That's about 150 people. We've got another company that we acquired 2 years ago called LTI, another 50 folks there. And then our latest venture in our portfolio is InfoLink, which we're here to talk to you today about. So anyone been to Schenectady? Anyone know where Frog Alley is? That's where our office is. We're on the top floor of that building. We got a really cool space there. And if you're ever over in that neck of the woods and you want to come up we have free beer up by us. Down at Frog Alley, you got to pay for it, but we got free kegs up by us. But yeah, come visit us. We're over in Schenectady. Here's a look at our leadership team, right? I'm the CEO of InfoLink, and Zach, who's with me here today, is our CFO. A look at a couple other of our leaders. Here's a look at our team, right? Ultimately what we did is when we learned about the R&D tax credit, this was back in 2015 on our software company. And when I heard about it, I thought it was too good to be true. I'm imagining, again, you already claim it. You know, sometimes when you hear about these things, you're like, I don't know, am I really gonna make any money on this? And we started claiming it, and we made a lot of money, right? It was really, really lucrative for us, and it became a believer. But what we realized was we could write software that could make this process a lot more efficient. And that's what we did, right? So this picture you're looking at here is a kind of a hand-selected group from Jahnel Group and LTI, the two other companies. And we kind of hand-selected this group to build this software platform that allows us to do an R&D tax credit study a lot more efficiently. And we're going to talk about what a study is and all of that. But that's a little background on us. And again, this is one of the companies in our portfolio, and we're happy to talk to you about it. So the key to doing an R&D study and claiming this credit is you've got to have an R&D tax credit specialist that ultimately is the one handling your study. Again, we built the software that our R&D specialists are using, but at the end of the day, you know, that's what you're paying for. You're paying for the specialist. And most CPAs don't do this. Almost every CPA we know outsources this to a firm that specializes just in this, and that's what we do. So here's a look at our R&D specialists, right? Victoria, Morgan, and Josh. These folks have completed over 2,000 studies. They've been in the game for over 10 years, and they are the experts, right? They're going to use our software, but they're going to be making the call on all those little nuances. And You know, there's tax code, this is section 41 of the IRS tax code. There's case law that's applicable. You really need an expert that's going to back up, you know, what the findings are. And we come at this with a servant mentality, right? That's a core value across all of our companies in our portfolio. And to me, when it comes to services companies, the best services companies are just the ones that care more, right? I don't care if you go to a pizza place. I don't care if you go to an accountant or an R&D tax credit firm. The ones who just care more are the ones who are going to deliver. And that's really the #1 core value that we bring to this. And we're gonna try to serve you. We're gonna try to make it as easy as we can for you, and ultimately deliver you, you know, a great R&D tax credit. But this isn't really. I guess it's kind of sounding a little bit like a sales pitch. This is less about us getting business, although selfishly we'd love to do your R&D studies. This is more about educating you guys on what is the R&D tax credit, and hopefully this is something that you can and will take advantage of. So with that, I'm going to pass it to my man Zach. He's the CFO, the money man. He'll talk about the nuances.
All right, thanks DJ. All right, so what is this credit? It's a bipartisan incentive. Basically what we're trying to do is make innovative jobs stay here in the United States. So the government in 1981 enacted the tax credit to stimulate that investment here in the States. It was made permanent in 2015. It's bipartisan, it's here to stay, and it's a good way to encourage you to keep your work here in the States and keep innovating. When you hear R&D, you think white lab coats generally, but it doesn't stop there. Of course, our pharma, biotech companies are going to qualify. We live in the software world. We claimed this credit for long before I was there in CFO. Manufacturing firms, you'll qualify, engineering and architects. Even firms that don't necessarily fall into these buckets, we have a client, he is a lender, but he uses software to scrape loan data. That work he does creating that software that helps him scrape loan data, those costs qualify as R&D. If you think about the manufacturing space, if you're trying to improve any processes, if you put a new machine in that helps you run something more efficiently, if you're building a new product, those kinds of things also are going to qualify. So it's not just white lab coats doing traditional R&D the way you might think of it. Those kinds of things are all going to qualify. So where we come in is we do the actual study. So what is the R&D tax credit study? The study determines what qualifies. Those 3 people that you saw a couple slides ago that Darrin mentioned, they're the ones doing the study. They're analyzing all of your expenses and determining which ones qualify as R&D per the tax code and the case law. And your credit ends up being roughly 6 to 10% of what your qualifying expenses end up being. So we'll do that study with you. We'll take all of your data and do it. At the end of the study, we'll provide Form 6765 and all supporting documents, a final report to your CPA for when they go to file your taxes.
Zach, let me just jump in there. So think about if you're trying to, if you were like me and you're sitting there, you would say, all right, well, what does this mean for me, right? So let me just give you a hypothetical. Let's say you've got $1 million in expenses. You would pay a company, maybe us, maybe some other company, to come in and do a study. We're going to look at your $1 million worth of expenses. This payroll, this guy does this materials, whatever. We're going to break those down and go through a study, and we're going to determine which of those expenses qualify. QREs is the term, qualified research expenditures, right? Qualified research expenses. So you got $1 million in expenses. Let's say in this hypothetical situation, we determined that 100,000 of it qualified as R&D. You're going to get a dollar for dollar tax credit, not a write-off, literally money back in your pocket of about 6 to 10% of that. So from, if it was 100,000 in expenses that we said qualified, or your QREs, you'd have a $6,000 to $10,000 tax credit. Does that make sense, guys? All right, good. Back to you, Z. Oh, question, yeah.
Are you able to speak about broad categories of expenses that often qualify?
Yes. I mean, do you have something in particular? But
I think we're getting to it.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
That's good. I think right now. So generally, the 4 buckets that qualify: wages, supplies, contractors, and your cloud expenses. Generally, wages make up about 70% of what your QREs end up being. So people are going to be the big one. Supplies, if you're working on a new product or something like that, the supplies that go into it. Your contractors also count, but just the ones in the United States. If you're using an offshore contractor for something, they would not qualify. The incentive is to keep the work here in the United States. And then your cloud costs also count, smaller percentage. So hopefully that answers your question, I think from the broad sense.
It does, thank you.
Perfect. So the better way to think of this is a technical jobs credit. So do you have technical people doing technical work? Those are going to be the bulk of your QREs, those wages. So your developers, your engineers, your scientists, your designers, that group of people, they're going to make up the bulk of your QREs. So if you have those high-tech jobs, those are the ones you're looking for.
And a lot of what we're doing in the study process is we're determining what portion of maybe a person. So say you have an engineer and half their time they're just doing like the same thing over and over again. But half the time they're doing this innovative work that really, hits the mark for the R&D tax credit. That's what we're gonna help identify in the study and document and say, okay, for this person, we're gonna take 50% of that person's wages. This person might be 10%. This person might be, you might have people that just all day long are doing R&D and you can take 100% of them. So my point is it could be a percentage of a person's wages or a contractor.
So in the case with a lot of founders, we don't necessarily take a salary. So can you work that in somehow?
Yes, you can. And so, and in some ways it can be really good, again, depending on your tax. If you're in a tax-paying position, basically you're profitable and you're pulling money out of there, you're going to be able to offset that. But you can also account for the cost of your time. So let's just say as a founder, half of your time was on R&D. You're able to quantify that and also count that. There's some caps and there's some like really weird math, but again, that's what you're paying a company to do, is to kind of handle all that. Long-winded answer, yes, the founder's time on R&D activities absolutely can and will qualify again
Even if they're not taking a salary.
even if they're not taking a salary, yes. Again, Zach and I I'm the software guy, he's the money guy, our R&D specialists aren't with us, they would be able to answer that specifically, but I'm 90% sure of that, but
Yeah, I am too.
don't take that to the bank.
He takes a salary, so we don't have that problem.
Is there any difference if you have in your team not just like US citizens, but like working visa people? Does it impact the...
It doesn't matter, as long as the work's done on US soil. So yeah, if you outsource anything overseas, even I think a US citizen, if they were working overseas, I think wouldn't count, right? It's all about where the work is done, on American soil, it counts.
So with capital equipment purchases, is it 100% for that too?
I'm 99% sure you're not going to get any credit for your capital equipment. Another thing that we didn't mention there, depending, because it's not as typical, but if you're in manufacturing and you've got supplies and you're prototyping, maybe you're throwing stuff out or there's a potential of throwing it out, supplies also do count, but not your machinery and not your real estate.
Can it go back a few years?
Yep, you can go back 3 years and amend. Yep, that's a good call. And that's huge, right? If a company's like, oh, I haven't been taken, I didn't even know about this. Many of our like first-time customers, we end up like going back and amending. And that's like a decision you've got to make, right? You might be like, well, my credit from 3 years ago is only, let's say it's $5,000. It might not be worth amending. But then 2 years ago it was $20,000, it absolutely would be worth it, right? And so we help you kind of determine that. But yes, you can absolutely go back and amend.
Because that makes a big difference.
Yeah, big time, yeah, absolutely.
Yes. All right, so we can talk a little bit about established companies and startups and how they take advantage of the credit. So established businesses, so companies that continue to invest in new products and processes, they're going to be able to reduce their tax burden immediately if they're profitable. But early stage startups can use the R&D credit too, even if they're not profitable, to help offset payroll taxes. So if you are a startup less than 5 years old, less than $5 million in revenue annually, you can use the credit to offset FICA taxes up to $500,000 a year. So you still can use this in those early stages where you might not be making money yet. So no income tax liability is required. You can also carry credits forward up to 20 years and then use them once you become profitable. So if you have the path and maybe you're outside that 5-year window, you can bank these and carry it forward.
Here's another good example to your question about amending. So we have a potential client, we haven't closed them yet. They knew about the R&D credit, they haven't been taking it because they haven't been profitable. Now some things are tipping for their business where they think either next year or the year after they're gonna be profitable. Now they're like, hey, let's go do our studies, let's amend, take the credit, and we're gonna store them up and basically carry them forward, knowing that profitability is coming, and then they'll be able to put 3, 4 years, 5 years of credits, boom, that first year they probably won't even pay any taxes. So good call out.
Yes. And as I mentioned, for startups less than 5 in revenue, less than 5 years in business, you can reduce your payroll taxes today. So there is a cash benefit to doing this now as a startup. Questions of that? And then, go ahead.
Sorry, Zach, you mentioned less than 5 years old, but there was another age.
Less than $5 million in revenue.
Right, so 10
Gotta
years
be
down the
both.
road, those years 6 through 10, in your example, are not gonna matter.
They won't matter for the payroll tax offset, but you can carry the credits forward to offset the income tax that comes later.
For just the first 5 years.
You can bank those credits for 20 years.
I was just, Kelly, I think what you're getting at is, what is that 5-year, $5 million? That's to qualify you as a startup. It's similar to what you were saying about those other things. I think it's that same category. That's just to say, hey, can I use these on my payroll taxes? Once you're out of that window, you can't use them on your payroll taxes, but you still got the credits, they're still valid, you can still carry them forward, you just can't use it to offset your payroll taxes.
Yeah, sorry. And then once we're done with the study, we offer full audit support too. So if the IRS comes your way and looks into this, we're going to provide you with all of our documentation, and we'll offer full audit support along the way.
Right, because at the end, as he said, right, when we finish a study, we fill out Form 6765, that's like the IRS form. We hand that to your CPA, we give them the final report. We basically give everything. Your CPA is still the one filing your taxes, right? They just outsource this piece to us. If there's an audit, obviously that has to do with the R&D tax credit, we've got your back fully and 100%. We're going back and forth with the auditors. We're representing basically, that's the reason the CPA is outsourcing it. They want an expert handling that specifically.